Mustering a courage that could only come from God, she met the flinty glower of the boy whose features she'd always felt were too squished together for such a large surface. "I'd prefer my death to come by old age."
"Then you'd best be minding your own business. Asking questions is detrimental to your health. Just ask Mr. Farwell."
Quincy forced his arm through hers in a mockery of gentlemanly behavior and propelled her down 5th Street, away from the bustle of people and the police station next to Independence Hall. "What have you done to him?"
"You'll find out soon enough. I only wish I could be there when you find out his fate."
"If you've hurt him, I'll turn you over to the police."
"You should be more worried about yourself. I intend to make sure you understand the seriousness of your position."
The fingers of his free hand stroked her arm as if she were a pet.
"Maybe I'll start with setting flame to your skirts like the witch you always were."
Quincy stopped walking, lost in the imaginings of his depraved mind.
"Yes, that's what I'll do. Just a foretaste of what can happen if you open your yap."
There was no doubt he'd do it. He'd tortured animals that he'd claimed to adore. How much more delight would he take in harming his enemies? "You wouldn't risk it. There are too many people around, and the police station's only a dozen yards away."
"You're right. It's too crowded here."
His free hand slipped underneath their arms to his pocket. The wooden handle of a knife emerged. In one swift movement, he shifted it into the fist beneath her pinned arm. He angled the blade's edge toward her and tugged her close. The point pierced through the wool of her coat and dress to scrape against flesh. Any movement contrary to his, and she'd likely suffer a punctured lung.
"What say you? Shall we go for a ride?"
"I don't see as I have any choice."
"Maybe you got smarts after all."
He guided her toward the hack stand outside the Philadelphia Library. When 2 men jogged down the library steps and turned their direction, Quincy angled his body toward hers and tilted his cap to shield his face from view. For a breath, the blond man's eyes met hers, and hope for a rescue swelled within her breast. Then his focus skittered away, and he walked past, talking to his companion without a second glance. She should have known better than to hope. Heroes were in short supply in her life. "At whose behest are you working, Quincy? I'll compensate you handsomely for telling me and then releasing me." His derisive laugh proclaimed his refusal.
"No questions. We've got eyes everywhere. Play by our rules, and aside from a few burns, there's no need to worry. But if you speak one word to anyone, even your precious little girls, we'll know."
He stopped at the first empty cab.
"Christian and Carpenter Street."
With a jab meant to remind her of the weapon he wielded, he released her arm and shifted almost against her back.
"After you."
Getting in that hack meant submitting to torture, maybe worse if he lost control. "My Savior, thou savest me from violence."
"Get moving!"
She'd move all right, but not inside. With one boot on the foot iron, she gripped the hack's frame and drew in a deep breath. May this horse be as unnerved as the ones that nearly trampled her. On a prayer, she rent a shrill scream that would lead either to her death or her salvation.